Hey everyone, welcome back to She Blurbs Podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Show, and today's guest is Deanna. Hi, Deanna.
Hi, Brooke. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me. I love the intro. The intro is great. I was like,
Ah, thank you.
did you do that or did you have someone do that for you?
I did
Nice. You got some
it.
skills there, girl. I love it.
Thank you. So, for my listeners, I just want to get what human trafficking is first, so that people know what it is.
Yeah, it can be many different things.
Mhm.
So I think people have an idea in their head from the movie Taken, like that's what human trafficking but it's actually more than that. It can be a child that's being molested by a parent, being molested by a family member, being molested by a neighbor. It can
Mhm.
be a friend that is being coerced into having relations with her boyfriend and his friends. It
Mhm.
can be one of your friends being like coerced into having sex for money.
Mhm.
So it's many different things, you know. So a baby that I mean, one of the charities I worked with a while back used to tell me some of the stories of some of the children that they, had come in contact with and were trying to help. And there was a 6-month-old baby that was molested by a woman's boyfriend, and they had to take the baby to the hospital and pull things out of her that he obviously was
Oh
doing to
my
her. And
goodness.
so I mean, it can be the girl, and it's in social media is a really big culprit of it too. Like there can
Mhm.
be young girls that are being trafficked online
Mhm.
to go meet an older man, older boy, whatever.
Mhm.
There are many different forms of human trafficking. It's not just what you see in the movies. It's
Mhm.
more of sexual abuse that happens, but it's a form of it that people don't realize that falls underneath the human trafficking the human trafficking title, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, that's new to me. Like, I'm glad that you educated us on what
Yeah.
human trafficking is, because I definitely thought it was like the movie track. I mean, yeah, Taken.
Yeah.
So it's wow. So can you tell us a little bit about your story and what you experienced?
Wrong guy, 17 years old. I mean, I come from a broken home. My father was very abusive to my mother and to me. I'm the oldest of five, and just kind of fell into that bad cycle. It is very true. Once you're exposed to a certain way when you're raised, you tend to fall into that same like vicious cycle until you heal yourself. And so,
Mhm.
unfortunately, I got involved with an abusive boyfriend, and one thing led to the other, and I started doing sex work, and I was
Mhm.
doing a lot of drugs. Luckily, I was pretty strong. I'm still very strong in my mind. I was very strong. Like I couldn't continue. I did not want to live my life like that forever.
Mhm.
I started distancing myself from a lot of different people, changing my phone number. I moved, and I just started making a lot of changes in my life to kind of get away from that. So I was lucky. I got into martial arts. I started doing reading a lot of self-help books. I taught myself how to meditate. This
Mhm.
is before meditation was really a big thing. Meditation is very talked about today. So you're
Mhm.
talking like over 20 years. And not only not social, uh, martial arts had a big part in that too, because it allowed me an outlet to discipline myself
Yeah.
and to really kind of value myself, showing up all the time and just learning a new skill. And I think like that's like a small thing that people don't realize that they can do is it's to build up that self-esteem and that confidence.
Mhm.
Start small and build up your confidence in like one area of your life. Just show up, and
Mhm.
things can change around you dramatically.
Wow. How did you feel though, like being with that person that abused you? What emotions was going through your mind? Like, how did you? I,
Well, I was 17 when I met him, and he was 8 years older, so he
okay.
was 25, and we had a very volatile relationship for a while into my
Mhm.
20s. And I think like the last thing for me, with like icing on the cake, was that he had like abducted me and took me into a field and tried to stab me, and
Oh man.
just well, he did stab me actually. No, he had stabbed me prior to that, but just I that was it for me. And here's how bad it was. My mom forced me to go to the police. And
Mhm.
so, like, because my face was all like he had punched me in the face, I had to get plastic surgery. And when I went to court, I was like sobbing because here I am, like this dysfunctional thought in my head. You're like, I don't want to hurt this person, even though he's hurt me.
Yeah.
It's just like part of like being raised around. I mean, my father being abusive to my mother like always going back and just being in that
Mhm.
cycle. And so, I couldn't talk to him for like 30 days, and
Oh, man.
so at the end of the 30 days, I just like blossomed into a whole nother person. And like,
Mhm.
like when he finally talked to me again, he's like, you are a diamond in the rough. And, completely had a different outlook towards me. And just, at that point, I had moved on. I had closed that chapter and moved on.
Mhm. Did you like seek therapy or get on
Oh yeah.
medication or anything?
No medication. I don't believe in
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I just did a lot of therapy. I think it's important to find yourself a therapist who's going to be honest with you and not
Mhm.
just coddle you. Because
Yeah.
I hear these stories of therapists out there that like with people that kind of just tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
That's not a therapist then. That's
Right.
that's not a therapist. Like I don't want like I wanted someone to really kind of put the mirror in my face and help me
Mhm.
grow, and that's what
Yeah.
therapy should be. Like you should be working on healing those parts of you that are broken. And so, I've done a lot of therapy.
A lot of therapy.
A lot of
Yeah.
therapy, a lot of personal development.
Yeah, like you were saying, like, because I had some of the same experiences as you, and I had to seek therapy, and my therapist was really tough. Like, she
Good,
was, I was like
good.
crying. That's how tough she was. I'm like, oh, why are
Yeah.
you saying those things?
Well,
But
yeah, definitely have cried a lot on the therapy couch. So, and that's okay. That's part of the process.
so he never like stalked you or anything, or like
Yeah,
tried to get back.
throughout the our relationship together, he like I had came home and he was in my house. He had broken into my house, actually two different places. I had come home. It was just crazy. But after he went he got arrested, right, for
Mhm.
abducting me and doing what he did to my face. Like we had no contact after that for a while. He actually, when I saw him again, he had actually proposed. I said no.
Okay.
And that was pretty much it. And like I think at one point I tried to like I was going through just like dating and I tried to connect with him again. I met him at a hotel just to have some fun and I couldn't be intimate with him. Like I'm just like this is done. So
Yeah,
and he
man.
he respected that. Like obviously he wasn't going to try to do anything after like him getting arrested.
Yeah.
So
Man. So I want to talk a little bit. So how did the sex work come up? Like how did that all
I
come
don't
up?
remember, just something that was introduced to me and I just easily just did it. And like I kind of was like a robot where I didn't even think about it. I was just more interested in making the money, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily I slowly got out of that and not did not get, because there were many times I probably could have lost my life. And so I think I had angels watching out for me during that portion of my life. And just, you learn a lot. You learn a lot, and I choose not to feel sorry for myself. I choose to look at it as part of my story, not who I am. And so I think that's where a lot of women that have maybe gone through some similar things
Mm-hmm.
may have some attachment to it where they don't need to. And it's nothing to be like, I mean, it's hard to talk about it because you feel some shame with it. But if you can forgive yourself for some of those things, then there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, definitely. So, can you tell me a little bit about like what you remember the most about your experiences
What do
of
you mean?
being human trafficked? Like how did you like what do you remember the most? Like what did he do to you? Can you go into detail? Like
I'm not
does that
going to
make
get into
sense?
like that kind of
Not
detail. No,
not in detail.
no,
Okay.
not like
Okay.
that. No.
Okay. So so can you describe what you were thinking and feeling?
Like I said, I was pretty numb and I was doing a lot of drugs back then. So I was,
Yeah.
taking a lot of ecstasy, smoking a lot of pot. I never did
Uh-huh.
anything harder than maybe like lines of coke. I didn't do anything crazy like heroin or anything like that. That was never interesting to me. So thankfully for that. But, I just kind of like looked at it as like party time in my life,
Mhm.
and And you do the drugs to numb yourself. It's like a
Right.
form it's self-medicating, right? So just I was doing a lot of drugs back then.
So I wanted to ask you about your podcast. You have a podcast called Label Free
Yeah.
Podcast. So
Hmm.
can you tell us a little bit about that and how you're helping people that come on your podcast?
Sure. And so I think, part my story, what I've been through, not only in that part of my life, as growing up with a deadbeat dad, having
Yeah.
bad boyfriends, then I married a very wealthy man. We had a huge life together. Like I met him in my early 20s after I had gotten away from the last one. And
Uh-huh.
it took me a while to really like give him a shot. And he chased me for about 6 months.
Oh
But
wow.
I was with him for almost 17 years of my life. We had I lived in the mansion. I had the Ferrari, the
Oh wow.
Mercedes. We flew private, all the things. And he actually passed away about 8 years ago.
Oh.
And I had to rebuild my life. And so after I've experienced all these traumas, these ups and downs, and actually,
Mhm.
very interestingly, after my late husband passed away, I got involved with another like real nasty guy, like another douchebag,
Oh wow.
just he was not a good person. And I was like, why am I back here again? Like, why am I in this again? Because some of the things that he was wanting me to do was
Hmm.
very similar from before. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is like a nightmare. I gotta like get this guy out of my life. And I just have to be by myself for a while.
Hmm.
And so I just did a lot of healing, and throughout the healing, I just thought of all the labels that people put on me. Like the widow was a big thing. Like, oh my God forbid I tell anybody if I go on a date that I'm a widow, because it's like sign of the cross. Like, oh crap, they want nothing seriously. It was
Yeah.
wild. And then I thought about all the labels that I put on myself. Like this, like for many years, I just kind of was alone and just
Hmm.
working on myself. And then was talking to my best friend. I'm just like, well, actually first I did a big event. I tried to become a fashion designer. I did like 3
Oh.
collections. And my last collection I did for an event I threw here in the Chicagoland area against human trafficking.
Oh.
Raised about $30,000, had about 300 people.
Nice.
And but that was it for me. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be my last collection. So I went out with a bang. And after that was over, I'm like, what's next? I'm totally type A. Always have to have something to do. And
Mhm.
I got an email on how to start a podcast. And I'm like, I don't know
Oh.
who the F I think I am. I'm gonna start a podcast. And so I was talking to my best friend at the time that, I'm tired of these labels. I'm tired of labels I'm putting on myself, the labels
Mhm.
that people have put on me through, over the last 20 years, and I'm just done with it.
Mhm.
So we came up with Label Free. To live your best life, live label free. And it really applies to, I mean, it's so broad. It's,
Mhm.
anyone who may be living life on their own terms, someone who's gone
Mhm.
through trauma like myself, someone who's fighting some kind of disparity out there in the world, that if they
Mhm.
feel like it's a label that's holding someone back. It can mean something different to everyone, but the underlying message still remains the same.
Mhm. That's good. So how do we get on your podcast? Like how do my can my listeners get on your podcast?
So I have a very specific process. I have everybody book an intro call with me, and then I just talk to them. I want to hear their story, see if it's a good fit. We're going to have a great conversation, and then I have different options. I actually charge people to be on my show because I have a very lengthy promotional process, and
Okay.
I've built up my audience over the last 5 years. So I
Nice.
have my podcast is very business oriented.
Oh, nice, nice. So can you tell us a little bit about like what kind of guests you've had on there?
Oh yeah, I've had athletes, entrepreneurs,
Wow.
artists. I'm releasing an artist tomorrow where she's like world renowned with sound bowls. She uses
Oh.
healing sound bowls, and just her voice is like an angel. It is so flippin' beautiful. Like she performed for me on the show,
Oh.
and I was just like crying because her voice is angelic. And she's got millions of streams. Like she's very, very popular. So, a lot of authors, coaches, entrepreneurs.
Nice. I want to bring this up. Hold on. Let me see if I can share my screen. I'm gonna go to your podcast and show my listeners how to get on there. Let me
I'm on all
see.
the things. All you gotta do is Google search label free podcast. It's gonna pop up everywhere.
That's how it happens with my podcast as well. It'll
Yeah,
do like if
well,
I
that's
do she
good.
blurbs.
You need to be searchable. That's important.
Okay, I think I got it on the screen. Is it on there? Yeah, it
Yep,
is.
there it is.
Okay. Okay, so this is how you can find your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is nice. Nice. Okay, so is there anything else you want to tell my listeners before I let you go?
Well, I want to encourage them. We live in a time where things are very divisive. The world is kind of scary, and
Mhm.
it does not mean that you should retreat and live in a bubble so you don't experience life. Life is meant to be lived, and fear is just something that's going to hold you back. So don't ever allow anything to prevent you from moving forward in your life, chasing a dream, chasing a goal. The second that you can face one of those fears is the second that you conquer the world. And do not let the rhetoric and the propaganda get your head all twisted. Like, freaking know who you are, stand strong in your truth,
Mhm.
and just go after it.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a guest today, Deanna.
Thank you, Brooke.
You have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to She Blurbs podcast. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast, that's all you have to do is email me at sheblurbs at yahoo.com. I forgot my email. And if you would like to be a guest on hers, she already told you how her process is. So you can go, if you meet the qualifications, then you can go and be on her podcast as well. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye.